I hope you have noticed that all these broadly understood styles can be subdivided. So the neoclassical style would really consist of the first, let's say, the natural style and this kind of peasant-inspired styles of the revolution, then the proper Greek and Roman inspirations of the early Napoleonic period, and then gradually those other historicizing elements start to creep in, and after the fall of Napoleon they will really give rise to the Romantic fashions. They will be more pronounced, but they start to be visible, like those more decorated hems and more decorated sleeves and more decorated bonnets and collars. They will really be exaggerated and elaborated upon in the Romantic fashion. So you can actually, if you look at those details, you can date the fashion plates quite well. But there is one more thing to remember. Fashion never changes overnight. So of course, let's say hair wigs were connected with the aristocratic fashions of the Ancien Regime before the revolution, but they did not disappear over night or over, I don't know, even a space of a few weeks. And some people wore them longer than others. This is always the case with fashion. It takes some time for the fashion to stick, and really you can see the difference over time when some elements become elaborated on and expanded. So there is always this transitional period. So when, for example, when you still have the high waistline and white collar predominantly, but you have now the more structured sleeves, like with paneled sleeves, and let's say a Medici collar or a Van Dyck collar or a Mary Stuart collar, so kind of historicizing collars. Or you might have some elements, like let's say the flounced decoration and more tailored shape of the skirt, but still have simple sleeves and no puffs. And probably the last thing to go would be the light collaring of the dresses and the high waistline. Sometimes you can see early on the dresses with the waistline lowering, but it normally takes some time to be adapted. So in the Romantic period, the waist would go to the natural level, but it takes some time. And after the first peace with France in 1814, the blockade ends and the English and French fashions are more or less coordinated. So you might have cartoonists making fun of the other side for a while, but after the fall of Napoleon, you really need to be very expert in the history of fashion to recognize the English fashion from a French fashion. So around the time of Napoleon's defeat, we have again some patriotic elements in the dresses. Here we have two examples of fashion plates from 1815. One is called the Waterloo walking dress, and it's from a very popular, very influential English fashion magazine, La Belle Assemblée. We met this magazine already. As you can see, the waistline is high, but let's say slightly lower. The sleeves are paneled. There is a very interesting three-dimensional decoration of the hem of the skirt, and a rather elaborate collar and a rather elaborate bonnet. Apparently, some elements of this, mostly the bonnet and the bodice, I guess, are inspired by folk costumes from the area of Waterloo in Belgium. So wearing this dress would mean that you supported the defeat of Napoleon. In France, for example, we have Le Journal des Dames suggesting a royalist fashion. Why is it a royalist fashion? You can see a hat is quite interesting. It looks like something from before the time of the revolution, perhaps going back all the way to the 17th century, with this kind of broad-brimmed hat with what looks like a feather headdress. But otherwise, high waistline, simple sleeves, but lots of small flounces towards the lower part of the skirt. And this is the flounces that really make this fashion royalist, because apparently there are 18 flounces, and after the defeat of Napoleon we have Louis the 18th. Yes, it could go as far as that. Yes, 18 flounces for Louis the 18th, yeah. The last elements here we have hair comb, a decorative hair comb that was quite popular towards the end of the neoclassical period. Remember, again, it took some time for the most persistent elements of fashion to go away, like the elevated waistline or the general, let's say, favoring of white collar for the dresses. Not so much for outer garments, but for the dresses as well. As far as hairstyles go, curls are more and more visible. So here we have the instruction how to curl your hair if it doesn't curl naturally. You could use paper curls or the strips of fabric, so kind of rug curlers. You would curl your hair after washing that or after kind of dampening that, and when it was dry, this would reveal nice fashionable curls. So as we talked in the live meeting, try to find a feature film, try to find a costume film set in this period. This would be any time from the French Revolution to the fall of Napoleon. So you may try to find something new or something you have seen already, but pay attention to the clothes and ideally find some examples that show something, perhaps something that nicely demonstrates and illustrates some of the principles that we discussed today, or perhaps some glaring inconsistencies, something that's completely incorrect in terms of fashion. It's always interesting to see those costume mistakes in costume movies. This is, I think, one of the practical uses of this course. It will increase your fun of watching costume films, perhaps by making you annoyed by the mistakes that you notice, but then again, it's good fun. So next time we'll talk about the romantic fashion, and that's it for today. Thank you.